Okay, hello everyone, welcome back and thank you so much for joining me. And we've got Poppy in here with us as well, so hopefully she'll behave herself as we record this. Now we're going to do two chapters of Nehemiah this evening. Chapters 11 and 12 overlap just so much, and so we're just going to do that in one go. Now, last time we closed off chapter 10 by seeing this huge commitment that they were making to the house of God. We will not neglect the house of the Lord. We're not going to forget about our responsibilities to you, which is absolutely brilliant. But it was going to demand a change in how they live their lives. I mean, that's how it's going to have to be done, right? You don't say what they said about how they're definitely going to change and then not do anything to actually invoke that change. That's the cycle that they're trying to break. And so these chapters today are not about personal commitments that the people made between them and God. We've done that already. This is about what they did as a community to show that to the onlooking nations that they were serious about worshipping God. Now, these chapters have lists that Nehemiah uses to record his thanks and appreciations to those who made those big changes. He wants to acknowledge them and how they've changed, which is a beautiful thing. And so I'm going to give you three broad ways that we can see it in the middle of all the lists of thanks. Number one, they give God their presence. They move from the outlying villages into Jerusalem. Number two, they give God their praise. Everyone worships on the walls for everyone to see. And then number three, they give God their person. Okay, sorry, that's just for the alliteration. They gave him themselves, their gifts. So let's start. Chapter 11, the first two verses. Now the leaders of the people lived in Jerusalem, and the rest of the people cast lots to bring 1 out of 10 to live in Jerusalem, the holy city, while 9 out of 10 remained in the other towns. And the people blessed all the men who willingly offered to live in Jerusalem. I don't know what you've ever thought about living in a big city, whether it's London or New York or somewhere like that. The idea splits people. You'll have some who will love the buzz and the excitement. Some people think about the opportunities, while others think about the noise, the crime, the cost of living, the smaller living spaces. But now think of a new city. Houses are in short supply. Infrastructure is still being established and is unproven. Do you move into that city? Now, that's where we are with Jerusalem. Remember, the people that have come out of captivity, they're rebuilding their city. They finally get to go home. Well, that means you want to go to your home. You want to go sleep in your old house, your old bedroom. It's yours, okay? It's probably a bit dusty. It's maybe had a few people through it, grabbing stuff. But it's your plot of land. Remember, the Jewish people by nature, they're farming people. They kept land for crops and animal for food and dairy. But now Nehemiah wants them to walk away from that, give it up, to move from the outlying villages and into the city. That's a big ask. And you're finally, back into the house that you grew up in or your dad grew up in. You want to look after the land that they looked after. You want to grow food. There's a famine just a month ago. We read about it in the book. So, but how do you grow crops inside a city? How do you keep cattle in a tight little city street? And think about it. If an army attacks and they're surrounded by people who have been wanting to attack them, where are they going to attack first? A little village? Or are they going to go for the symbol, the capital, Jerusalem, that's just been rebuilt? So for a lot of people, I'm sure they're very happy to rebuild the city. I'm sure they just probably didn't want to live there. But Nehemiah calls on the people to make this first change, move into the city of God. And we'll see that some people willingly went into the city, others less so. They had to cast lots, which is like a spiritual rolling of the dice. But it was a way of God showing them the way between two legitimate choices. Proverbs 16:33 tells us that the law is cast into the lap, and it's every decision is from the Lord. So God worked through that process to speak to his people. Now, why would some people willingly go into the city? Well, perhaps the adventure of it. For some, they maybe just wanted to be where God was said he was going to work, to be a full part of it. Others perhaps didn't have anywhere else to go. Maybe others felt that it was a sense of national pride, a duty to protect the city, to protect what they had built. But the call to live in the city is very similar to Paul's call to us in Romans 12. He says, I appeal to you, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. That's your spiritual worship. See, he says, present your bodies. It's not just about sending positive thoughts and prayers. It says, bring your physical bodies. Never underestimate the power of simply being present in the place where God is working. Over lockdown, we felt the difference between a church online and church in person. And I'm convinced some people have picked up bad habits over the last 7 months. Habits like not showing up. Sure, the ministries I'm involved in, they haven't started up yet. I don't need to be there. So, showing up is a ministry. The people who moved into the city are recorded here because it was a great service, even an act of faithfulness to God. But look at verse 2. Some people had to be conscripted in verse 1, but there was people who went willingly. They were blessed. Sometimes we have to conscript people and say, look, there's something that's come up in the church. We urgently need you to respond. We need people in this position now. But you know, it's so much better when people come to us and say, Jeff, I want to get involved. I want to serve. Where can I help? And so I'll say, okay, well, the Bible class, they're always looking for more people. And then there'll be a long pause and think, I'll think about it. I'll pray about it. Sure you will. I thought you were wanting to get involved. Some jobs are easier filled than others. Some jobs are more desirable than others. But the best way to serve the Lord, whatever it is willingly. God, you need me in the city? Okay, I'm packing up, that's where I'm going. God, you need me in the creche? Fine. You need me in this place? Fine. I'm there. I'm going to be where you need me. Where do you need me, God? I'm going to show up. That's my ministry. I'm the guy who shows up, and I'll be there. I'll be there at the prayer meeting. I'll be there on a Sunday. I'm the person who wants to show up in person, not just online and kind of half listen while I'm drinking coffee or texting my mates. You see, true love seeks to serve. True love demands an outlet, a way to be expressed. If you truly love God, your soul will ache for a way to express that love by serving, ministry, a way to show up. John 3:16 tells us that God so loved the world. He did something. It found an outlet. He gave us his son. He showed up. His heart was so full of love. He had to express it. He had to find a way of coming to us. There was an outlet, an overflowing of that love towards us. True love gives of yourself. In Israel, there are 2 seas. Well, they're kind of large lakes, but they call them seas. You have the Sea of Galilee up in the north, which is full of fish and life. It's beautiful. I've swum in it. It's a nice place. It's got an inlet and an outlet. And then you've got that Jordan River that flows south and into the Dead Sea, which is, as the name suggests, death. It's full of chemicals, and famously, you swim in it, you can't sink. But it's so full of chemicals because there's no outlet. Only an inlet. It takes and it takes and it takes, but it never gives, and so nothing can grow around it. There are Sea of Galilee believers, and you'll take and you will give. And what happens is, whenever you have that kind of a life, you generate and cultivate life around you. There's a vibrancy around you. You are fed and you feed others. And then there are Dead Sea Christians, and they want to take and take and take, but they'll keep hold of all of it. These are people who won't nourish others around them. They won't cultivate anything around them. There's no spiritual life sprouting up around them. But true love has an outlet. True love will find an outlet to express a devotion for God. And so here we find that sometimes the best way of doing that is simply showing up. And the list of names that we have here in the rest of the chapter may mean nothing to us, but I think that's why it's so important. The fact that it's not important to us makes it important. No one has ever thought, I'm going to make a bookmark out of this chapter. No one's ever thought, I'm going to memorize the list of names that are really hard to pronounce. I'll bet most people watching this have never read the lists the whole way through. But that's why it's important, because it shows us that God notices and appreciates what they're doing, even when the rest of us don't appreciate what they're doing. I think it's beautiful that even though their work doesn't seem that big to us, they just moved house. It might seem like their contribution is small, but God cares enough to record it. Listen to me, folks. Showing up when it counts maybe doesn't earn as many brownie points with some as others, but with God it's noticed. When you serve and you feel that you're overlooked, God notices. Whenever you pick up a phone and ring to try and be there with somebody, God notices. When you put pen to paper or you text or whatever it happens to be, and you're trying to show up for people, and that's your ministry, God notices. Let's highlight just some people to underline the point. Drop down to verses 22 and and 23. It says, the overseer of the Levites in Jerusalem was Uzi, the son of Bani, son of Hashabiah, son of Mattaniah, son of Micah, and of the sons of Asaph, the singers, over the work of the house of God. For there was a command from the king concerning them, and a fixed provision for the singers, as every day required. Now, Asaph, do you remember that name? The guy who wrote loads of Psalms, Psalm 50, and then there was a stretch from 73 to 83. A lot of those Psalms are about Jerusalem and about the city and the walls and the gates. But here we see that there are people set aside to sing in the temple. That's their job. That's their ministry. That's what they have to show up for, to sing the songs of David and Asaph. Paid worship leaders. But imagine these people watching others contribute in more practical ways. Building, guarding, fighting their enemies, putting up houses, creating the infrastructure. And then you're told, look, just go and sing a couple of songs. Do you think they thought, why can't I make a meaningful contribution? Why can't I get stuck into some real work? Maybe some people said that to them. It says, why am I out here pushing wheelbarrows around and you're just in there singing a wee tune? Or maybe some people who were working hard heard these songs flowing out of the temple, and it encouraged them, and it was what they really needed. Think about some of the songs that have touched your heart this week and really blessed you. This month, maybe there's been dark times, there's been hard times. And these songs that you hear, they've been written by professionals, people who don't have so-called real jobs. But we sing their songs as we come out of work or go into work or from the school run, and it heals us. It dissolves the bitterness. It directs us back to God. There was one that hit me this week. It's a new Christmas one that's coming out. It's called "O Come All You Unfaithful." I'll try to link it in the link below. I'll try and remember that. But it'll do your heart good listening to it. But someone was set aside for that purpose, to sing that song, to write that song, for the rest of us to be encouraged and blessed in our ministries. So you see, when it comes to God, there's no small jobs. And in fact, when you go through scripture time and time again, the highest praise from God goes to those who weren't doing the biggest jobs, but who were the most faithful in their jobs. It's never the size of the job, the status of the job, or the visibility of the job that impresses God. He appreciates those who go about the tasks that they've been called to faithfully. That's what matters to him. So when we stand before God at the Bema seat, the judgment seat, that place where we all receive our crowns and rewards in heaven, the question will not be, were you well regarded in your task, but were you faithful to the job that I assigned you? And in heaven, I'm not going to expect that many rewards, for I will have received many of them on earth. Every time someone says, oh, Jeff, that was a great study, or you were blessed and it means so much, it's great. It means so much to me because it means my week wasn't wasted, that it's borne fruit, and that's good. But at the same time, there's this part of me that goes, okay, well, that's one less reward that I'm getting in heaven. And I'll surprise you, I think, those who will get the big rewards in heaven. Don't be surprised for the people who just quietly went about showing up, get many of the rewards. The prayer warriors who kept showing up. Why? Because they're faithful. That's what God values. Drop down into chapter 12 for the next thing that God gives us. The next thing that we give to God is public praise. Verse 27. At the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites in all their places to bring them to Jerusalem to celebrate with dedication, with gladness, with thanksgiving, with singing, with cymbals and harps and lyres. And the sons of the singers gathered together from the districts surrounding Jerusalem and from the villages of the Netophathatites, also from Beth Gilgal, and from the region of Geba, and from Azmapheth. From the singers had built for themselves villages around Jerusalem. And the priests and the Levites purified themselves, and they purified the people and the gates and the wall. You know why now I've been skipping so many passages of the list. Some of those names are hard, okay? And sometimes you can think it through, but when you have to say it, sometimes your tongue just doesn't quite coordinate with what your brain's trying to tell it to do. But this passage, it records this really big moment. The work has officially been done. It's time to celebrate. And so they bring everyone together, and the first thing they do to celebrate is purify themselves. Now, it's easy to bring this forward, right? We look at the cross, we look at the empty tomb, and we rejoice in the finished work of Calvary. But that means nothing unless there's repentance. There can't be a celebration of the finished work until there's been cleansing. Forget about seed faith. Forget about naming it and claiming it, or blabbing it and grabbing it, whatever you subscribe to. The Christian life is not a self-help book based on positive thinking. That's not true. The Christian life, yes, it's marked by faith and victory that's anchored in Christ, but it must begin with purity and repentance. Seeing the finished work of the cross and applying that finished work is the same as knowing that hand sanitizer cleans your hands and actually using it to clean your hands. Verse 31. Then I brought the leaders of Judah up onto the wall and appointed 2 great choirs that gave thanks. One went to the south on the wall to the dung gate, verse 38. The other choir of those who give thanks went to the north, and I followed them with half of the people on the wall, above the tower of the ovens to the broad wall, and above the gate of Ephraim, and by the gate of Yeshana, and by the fish gate, and the tower of Hananel, and the tower of the 100 to the sheep gate, and they came to a halt at the gate of the guard. So both choirs of those who give thanks stood in the house of God. What you have here is 2 choirs making their way, one south, one north, and circling the temple. And I love this for so many reasons. First is that these walls, so far they'd been used to people walking on them and working on them and watching on them. But now the walls were for worshipping on. They dedicated the walls to the Lord, to the point that verse 43 says that the joy of Jerusalem was heard far away. It was done as a public witness to all the nations around them that were watching. These walls are for the glory of God, so to God be the glory. They wanted the world to hear them say that. Remember what was said a couple of weeks ago, our faith is personal, but it should never be private. Don't be afraid to shout it from the rooftops or from the walls. Glory to God. And not only that, but despite having professionals set aside, as we mentioned just there, these professional singers in the temples, this act of dedication wasn't left to the professionals. That everyone who worked on the walls got to play a part in the worship on the walls. Yes, we've said it's great to have these professionals who are set aside to encourage us in our other ministries, but worship is not a spectator sport. Never, never, never show up to church and think, okay, the people on the stage, they're the ones who are there to make me feel better, to make me feel good, to give me goosebumps. No, they maybe set the tone, they maybe set an example, but worship is something that everyone has to do. We're saved, all of us are saved for the glory of God. So we each declare that by proudly, publicly, on the walls, as it were, saying, to God be the glory, great things He has done in my life. Another thing that I love about this is the defiance of it all. Think back to chapter 4. The enemies of Jerusalem are laughing at them for the size of the work that they have in front of them. They're going, you're never going to do that. Sanballat's laughing at how the feeble Jews will never manage it. Tobiah is laughing, saying, a fox is going to knock over those walls. And yet here they are, forget a fox, an entire nation is walking on these walls now, marching to the glory and the goodness of God. Now, I say march, but don't think of it as a miserable trudge around the walls. People are thinking, oh, come on, I need to get home. No, it's a party scene. There's singing, there's dancing, it's celebration. And walking on the walls carries significance. It's symbolic of the people claiming a place in God's name. Abraham in Genesis 13 was told by God to walk through the land, for I will give it to thee. In Joshua 1, God tells Joshua the same thing. Every place the sole of your foot shall tread upon, I have given it to you. So this joyful march is a celebration. It's a defiant, we told you so to the nations around them. But it's also a bold declaration. These belong to us. Again, this is our city because of God. It's our city. It's the city of the children of God. And so these 2 chapters are an expression of gratitude to the people for their response to the finished work. They've given God their presence. They've showed up. They've moved in. They've given God their praise. They've celebrated publicly on top of everyone and told everyone of the greatness and the goodness of God with purity and with passion. Purity and passion, you need both. Passion without purity is misguided, reckless. Purity without passion is boring and dry and dead. Purity and passion have to come together. But as we finish, just notice the closing verses tell us of how they gave God themselves. Verse 44. On that day, men were appointed over the storerooms, the contributions, the firstfruits, and the tithes, to gather into them the portions required by the law for the priests and for the Levites, according to the fields of the town. For Judah rejoiced over the priests and the Levites who ministered. I love that. Verse 45, and they performed the service of their God and the service of purification, as did the singers and the gatekeepers, according to the command of David and his son Solomon. For long ago in the days of David and Asaph, there were directors of the singers, and there were songs of praise and thanksgiving to God. And all Israel in the days of Zerubbabel and in the days of Nehemiah gave the daily portions for the singers and the gatekeepers, and they set apart that which was for the Levites, and the Levites set apart that which was for the sons of Aaron. Okay, so it's about people giving and making sure that the people who were serving had enough, because they were living in Jerusalem. They couldn't farm, they couldn't raise the cattle, they couldn't do those things. They were called out of those things, and so the people responded to them. But look back at verse 44. Something that I picked up on, that I read, is that not only did they give because they had committed to do that back in chapter 10, but we're told that Judah rejoiced in their priests and the Levites who ministered. It's so important, the leaders that you have in place. Nehemiah, on itself, is a great book on showing the importance of good delegation and how everyone has their jobs. But this hit me again this week. It's not enough to have everyone play a part, but it's essential that the people are good at their jobs. Yes, there will always be room for growing, and we're always going to have a level of imperfection as sinful people. But there will be imperfections. But it's a powerful thing that Judah rejoiced in the priests. Now look, this is not me saying, church, you have to rejoice in your elders and your deacons. No, this is a challenge to my elders and my deacons. Do the people rejoice in your service? Do the people rejoice that you're performing your duty the way that you are? And the thing is, we're not told that they were doing anything special, that they were doing anything different than they were supposed to do. There's nothing radical here. They just kept it simple, but they did it well, and the people appreciated that. Oh, I pray that I would serve you in such a way that you rejoice in my ministry, not for my sake or for my praise, but as verse 45 then goes on to say, they performed the service of their God. May it be said of all of us in the church that we showed up willingly, that we were worshipping, and each of us in the body sought to delight others as we served and performed the service of our God. That's a powerful thing. We've got one chapter left in Nehemiah. And the crazy thing is, these 4 chapters that we've been looking at, building up in the last couple of studies of revival and the commitment, we're going to see in the last chapter that doesn't last. This cycle that they fought so hard to break, breaks them. And something happened that sucked the life out of this party. And so we're going to have to look at that next time. But for now, let's pray. Father, I pray that we would be people who willingly show up for you. Wherever you need us, wherever you call us to be, Lord, that part of our heart's desire would simply be to show up and to be in the right place at the right time for you. Lord, give us an awareness and appreciation of what that means, what that looks like. But Lord, may we go willingly. Lord, we know that you love a cheerful giver. So Lord, may we give of our time and our presence cheerfully, willingly. Lord, we pray that we would be people who don't hide behind walls of privacy as we worship. But Lord, that there would be a boldness to our praise that says, I don't care who sees it. I don't care who witnesses it. I am here and I'm declaring the goodness and the glory of God. Lord, give us a boldness. And Lord, for those who serve in our church, who serve in our community for the sake of God, Lord, I pray that those who we minister to would delight in our ministry because we do it unto you. And Lord, we pray that while we would never achieve perfection this side of eternity, Lord, I pray that our ministry would be pleasing, that it would be one that encourages and one that brings delight. Lord, may that mark each of our lives the calling on each of our lives, Lord, that we would delight in one another. Lord, that you would delight in us. Lord, that we would delight in you. And we ask this in your name. Amen.